Thank you, Mirek, and thank you all for being here, especially after a long night party last night, I'm sure. Who of you owns an IoE device? Nobody? IoT device? Who owns a smart TV? I guess all the hands should be up now. Or a smartphone? Everyone. So basically, you do own an IoT device. Today, we're going to talk about whether IoE is worth of investment. Let me start off with just a short presentation about myself, just so you know who am I and who is this guy that is trying to be smart up here on the stage this morning after so many beers last night. I myself, Luka Planinc, I'm the managing director of ABC Venture Gates from Munich. I myself am an entrepreneur. I co-founded 2 startups. One exited and one failed miserably. A lot of sweat and tears and blood there. I used to be a lawyer, and I dealt with startup stuff, and I found the career quite boring. So that's why I became an entrepreneur. And I also work as an advisor to several of our portfolio startups, the ABC portfolio startups. So just a few words about ABC so you can get a perspective of who we are and what we do. We are a startup acceleration group that started as a seed stage accelerator from Ljubljana that grew into a VC fund that grew internationally. So we have our offices in Munich right now. We have our headquarters in Silicon Valley. We're working with enterprises. We have our own software development company. So in the past 2.5 years, we grew pretty fast. So if you guys are interested in expanding your business to Germany or Silicon Valley, come and talk to me or talk to Grega, my colleague, anytime throughout the day. But anyway, let's leave the boring stuff. Let's get to the interesting stuff of today. The difference between IoT and IoE. Some people interchange this thing, so it's the same for them. Do you know what the difference is? No hands. That's okay, because most of the people don't, and that's why I'll briefly just explain it here. Usually, IoT is one-way communication. IoE goes both ways. So IoT devices send some data to a central device. On the other hand, IoE, they communicate among each other. And it does not have to be a central device. It's spread out. So it's not a cloud, a central cloud anymore. It's kind of a fog now. But there are different definitions of that, right? Some people compare it with railroads. So if you imagine railroad tracks and connections among them as IoT, IoE, on the other hand, is all this, plus all the trains, plus all the passengers, plus all the staff, the ticket machines, at the end of the day, the weather. So it's everything that's included in that. So how I see it, IoT is it's a smaller group within IoE. But with Internet of Everything, actually Cisco is guilty for being commercialized that way. And some people say it's especially because Cisco missed the train with IoT. So they were late, right? Like with many corporates, they're late in stuff. So they discovered IoE, and they put tons of marketing money into it to make it a thing. It actually is a thing, but it's also a marketing trick, and I'll talk about it a bit later as well. They call it an intelligent connection of people, process, data, and things, which means that all of these entities communicate among each other, so not just things, but everything else as well. The applications that we see today mostly divide in those 3 parts: connected home, business, and smart cities. But because we're talking about investments today, we're going to focus where the most money is going to and which part of the IoT or IoT market is largest, which is business. Here you get very different kinds of data. So it depends on who you ask, right? So when people are talking about IoE industry, BI Intelligence said it's going to be $250 billion, right? It's going to be huge. Then Gartner came and said for the same thing, in the next 10 years, it's going to be 1.9 trillion. IDC, on the other hand, said 7.1 trillion. And Cisco, what a surprise, said it's going to be 19 trillion, right? And this is for the same thing. So you can see how inaccurate the data must be about it. And one thing that you have to know, when Cisco tells you it's going to be a $19 trillion industry, you're not the target of this data. What Cisco is doing here is they're targeting their shareholders. They're targeting their investors. Of course, they're going to say the opportunity of IoE is huge. It's enormous because they're all into it. So they want to convince their investors, their shareholders, it's going to be a huge industry. Doesn't matter whether it's 1 trillion or it's 19 trillion, it's huge either way. And why focusing in business and in industry? Why do they focus on IoT and IoE so much right now? Especially because it brings down the cost. It increases the efficiency. It makes everything run smoother, faster, with less downtime, and all of that. This is why the industry is very much interested into all of the IoT devices. And right now, at this time, we can see that manufacturing and logistics are the ones that are the early adopters. Probably some of you already seen that very cool video of Chinese warehouse when they're distributing packages with gazillions of small little yellow robots that are just running around and making people's work obscure and doing all of that on their own. These guys don't sleep, don't eat, don't have a union, and don't demand extra rights. So this is the most straightforward application to it, and the others are following as well. The opportunities and why the IoE industry in general is growing is because we see that now half of the planet is going to be connected to the internet very, very soon. There's so many mobile devices. Every one of you has a smartphone, and so many other devices that are connected to the internet are being part of this. So that's why we need this IoE whole thing that's going to communicate among each other. I mean, if you take apart an IoT device, basically you find all the components of a mobile phone. So because of the development of mobile phones that started with, let's say, with Apple in 2007, IoT grew as well. And just getting in touch with the consumer market, there's going to be more than 1 billion homes that will have Wi-Fi next year across the globe. A funny thing also is connected car is a quite big thing in the consumer market. But when you ask people what they see as a connection or the connectivity within the connected car, then they say streaming of music. Not that high tech, but nevertheless. But the most important things is, as you can see, prices of sensors, so prices of hardware, prices of computing costs and networking are decreasing, which makes fixing machines redundant. So what happens is that now you can buy an IoT device super cheap and do whatever you want with it. So if it breaks down, who cares? You know, it's broken down, nobody's going to fix it, you kick it out, you buy a new one. It's so cheap. That's why this industry is going to keep growing. But since, I mean, we are investing into startups, and this is what we are somewhat experts at, I want to talk about startup financing. And here I want to focus on even narrow it down from IoE to IoT to industrial IoT. Because this is the biggest group within the IoT where the investments are coming in. This is where the most money is being spent, and it's within IoT is growing. So industrial IoT, we've seen investments. This is from CB Insights. I encourage everyone to subscribe and check CB Insights. They have great data about all kinds of industries, and they, particularly they like industrial IoT. We can see that the growth of investments in the past years has been immense. So number of deals and the amount of money that it's being invested. So you can see in 2015 and 2016, it's been much bigger than in 2014 as well. One of the companies, Six Fox from France, raised what was it, 160 million in 2016, which is a considerable amount also for Series E. However, on the other hand, and this is where it takes us when we think whether investment into IOE makes sense, especially in the early stage, is the trend that we saw at the end of 2016. The number of investments started dropping. You can see the amount of money is still there, and it repeated again in 2017. So there is the amount of money, and now in 2017 is even growing. However, the number of deals is falling. What that tells you is, even though it's a relatively young industry, but it tells you that it's maturing. And this really considers the young startups, because this is not the, in investment perspective, is not the hot new young industry anymore. Because as said, the numbers of deals are falling, but the amount of money is growing. That means that each and every single deal has a larger amount, which means that now slowly the investments are moving into the later stage investments, which makes it a bit more difficult for the young startups to jump in. So as said, there's more money coming into fewer companies. And emphasis, based on data, is that automotive and health tech is what in startup world is being invested in the most. However, on the other hand, and this is if you guys are doing on something security-wise in terms of IoT, I believe you have a good opportunity there, because there is a lack of that. And this is one of the troubles that the industry does have. Here are the threats to the industry and why the industry might not grow as fast or not grow at all, but the threats can also be an opportunity at the same time. So the biggest one, in my opinion, is security. All of the devices that are communicating among each other, these channels are not secure enough right now. And there have been cases in the US where there was a hack into a company that resulted in several million dollars of damages because the communication among the devices was not secure. And it's still not there yet. Nothing super secure exists yet. So even the major devices have big issues with that. There's slow adoption, obviously, which, especially for the asset-intensive industry, they adapt slowly, which makes investment more expensive because it takes longer time to come around. More time to get the customers, more time to get the industry there. And there's also a skills gap. So now a lot of people saying, I mean, I'm in Germany right now, and you all know that high school education in Germany is very strong because people go from high school, they go to work, and they get paid well, and so it's great for the companies, it's great for the economy and all that. High school education is not going to be enough, because what's going to happen is these guys are not, will have to be smarter in terms of software engineers. So they cannot deal with devices anymore. As I said before, the device breaks, you throw it away, you buy a new one. But in order to manage them and in order to control them, you need people who are well educated, have university degrees and all that. So this is a skills gap that is going to have to get filled there as well. So if you guys are going to be looking for a job, make sure you have a university degree in that respect. And of course, the majority of consumers are still not convinced. You know, this is still something new. There's still early adopters are only looking into that. They are afraid about security, the usage, and all of that. And the biggest threat to the startups developing IoT devices, in my opinion, is patent law, is protection of intellectual property. As I said, I used to be a lawyer, so I do know a little bit about this. And what is happening is that companies like Cisco, IBM, Apple, Google, they're spending gazillions amounts of dollars in patenting their technology, which narrows down the opportunities. Because what's going to happen is the startups that are developing some new stuff might already have been patented by those big companies. What can you do about it? Not a lot. You know, at the beginning, you can be successful, you can get some traction. As soon as you get on their radar, their team of lawyers in nice, expensive suits is going to come in and close your business. So this is a big threat. On the other hand, could be an opportunity, so you're looking for niche stuff that is still not covered by those patents. What I really like this quote here from Tim. We usually overestimate the technology's impact in the short term and underestimate it on the long term. So to close this thing up is everyone gets excited about new technology right away. Bunch of money is being invested into these new technologies, right? At the beginning. And then it does not live up to the potential. That happened to 3D printing, for example. Everybody was talking about 3D printing. Oh, it's going to be the next best thing. And then we figured out we can only print out teacups, right? In the industry, it makes a lot of sense. Healthcare, a lot of sense. On the other hand, consumer industry, not that much. So that excitement went down, the investment went down. However, 3D printing is picking up back again. So I believe it's going to similarly happen to IoT. Now there's a bunch of investment in there. It might drop, but it will pick up again. Because it is a fact that all of the devices, all of us, our processes, everything will be connected, communicating among each other in the future. So this industry is definitely on the rise. You just need to find the right opportunity for that. So to answer the initial question, is IoT, whatever, so worth the investment? I can answer that in a very nice German word that is being used in Germany a lot. It's Jein. It's Ja und Nein. So again, it's a nicer way to say it depends. So if you guys are into security in the communication among the devices, if you guys found something really niche that is not covered by the patents by the huge-ass companies out there, you might be something for up to it. However, on the other hand, if you're doing something that has been done before, honestly, it's going to be very difficult. I truly believe in the industry. I truly believe there's going to be a lot of things happening. There's going to be tons of money poured into it, but you need to be smart about it. Again, asking me, go for security communication, and you'll make it. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me 13 minutes of your life. And if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer any. Otherwise, I will also stick around for a while so you can talk to me as well. Thank you very much.